So as I was watching the Champions League final on Saturday night, one of my mates commented that if Man City had signed Harry Kane instead of Erling Haaland, like they tried to do 2 years ago, they probably would have been in the same position, winning leagues, winning Champions Leagues, and so forth. My response to that was probably correct. And if Spurs had signed Erling Haaland in his place, then Spurs would probably be in a better off position as well. So what else am I going to do? I'm going to run through Football Manager, do an experiment and see which striker proves to be the better of the two. So that's exactly what we did. So here we are. We're going to look at Spurs first of all. Just a quick note to say that yes, Antonio Conte is still the manager in charge. We've just ran this from the 23.4 database. We haven't included any other databases that include transfers and manager changes and things like this. Just the standard Football Manager database that was released in spring of this year. So we're going to have a look at the tactics first of all. As you'll see, in typical Antonio Conte style, he has played three at the back, four in front of them, two wing backs, two wingers, and a striker up front. You may notice that this is not exactly the first team lineup that he was using. As you'll see, Fraser Foster there playing in 11 games all season. He's made 5 substitute appearances, 5 sub appearances for a goalkeeper is a little bit of an odd statistic, but it is what it is. Hugo Lloris playing obviously 46 of the 52, 53 games, or more than that perhaps. So this is not specifically the exact first team, but we're going to have a look and see at the at Erling Haaland and see how he get on. So obviously his attributes are incredible, we're all aware. In terms of goals, games and assists, he played 53 games in total, making 2 sub appearances during that. He did score 25 goals and he's also created 15 assists as well. He has outscored his XG of 20. He's got 17 goals in the Premier League, 4 in the Champions League, 3 in the FA Cup, 1 in the Carabao Cup, a couple of international goals as well. We'll not worry too much about them. So in terms of Haaland, he has got very good goal scoring form with Spurs. Maybe could have scored a few more goals if there was better service going to him. We're all aware Spurs currently in real life without Harry Kane just wouldn't create or score goals at all. So in terms of competitions in the Carabao Cup, they get knocked out in the third round, which is the first entry round, of course, by Southampton. They did lose that on penalties. Even Perisic missed. Armstrong missed. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that is Adam Armstrong, perhaps, but probably Stuart Armstrong. Didn't say which. But one of them scored, one of them missed, so it's fine. It's not the same player taking 2 penalties. But Yves Bissouma missing the crucial penalty there to put Spurs out in the third round of the Carabao Cup. Not too concerned about that. In the FA Cup, they have got knocked out of the 5th round. As you'll see here, they've gone out against Aston Villa in extra time. Ollie Watkins scored a penalty in the 97th minute to put Aston Villa through. And if we go back to have a look at the FA Cup, Aston Villa went on to lose to Man United, who then went on to beat West Ham in the semi-final and eventually lose in the final. In the Champions League, Spurs did very well. They've got to the quarter-finals of the Champions League. They've lost to Liverpool 5-0 in aggregate, 2-0 at home, 3-0 away. Liverpool went on to beat PSG in the semi-final and then went on to beat Real Madrid in the final, with a goal coming from Diogo Jota in the 37th minute. So they've done very well in the Champions League. If we have a little look then at Spurs in the Premier League, as we'll see here, Spurs have finished in 4th place. They did lose 8 games this season. Some of them we're looking at maybe could have done a little bit better. We lost 3-2 to Man United, which strangely are down in 16th place. You'd like to think they could have done better there. They did lose to Fulham as well, who've been relegated, and a couple of other results there. Probably a little bit surprising. If we look at the past positions, if we just turn Man City off and look at Spurs, as you'll see, they're kind of top half quite a lot during the early part of the season, up to maybe kind of the halfway point. 19th week, 19th, 20th week in the league, they get up as far as 5th, and from there, second half of the season, they were in 4th for the most part, jumped up to 3rd, jumped as high as top of the league in 1st, dropped down to 2nd for 2 weeks in a row, down to 4th, and that's where they stayed for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. They spent 11 weeks in fourth place, and that is where they have finished. If we look at the table again, as you see, they're 70 points. They're 2 points clear of Chelsea in fifth, and they are a full 5 points behind Arsenal in third. So in terms of the competitions, Spurs have done very well. If this was a real life season, I, as a Spurs fan, would actually be very happy with that. Haaland scoring 17 goals in the Premier League for us as well. So that's how Spurs got on. Let's have a little look at Man City. As you'll see, they are sitting in second place there. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Pep Guardiola still in charge. If we have a look at their tactics, it is the 4-1-2-1, 4-3-3, whichever you prefer to call it. We do have Harry Kane playing up front, of course. Let's have a look at his statistics. As you can see there, played 50 games, scored 23 goals, 16 assists. So he's played 3 games less than Haaland, scored 2 goals less, assisted 1 more, but his XG is much better. His XG is 14, and I scored 23. So it's been a very good season for Harry Kane in that regard. If we look at Man City and the progress they have made in the competitions, as we'll come to the league in just a few moments. In the Community Shield, of course, first game of the season, they did beat Liverpool 1-0. Harry Kane scoring on his debut to lift his first piece of silverware. As a Spurs fan, I'm delighted with it, but as a Spurs fan, I'm not happy to see him leave, obviously. In the Carabao Cup, they've gone on to the final there where they have lost to Arsenal 1-0. As you'll see there, Gabriel Martinelli scoring in the 34th minute. William Saliba getting sent off in the 9th minute, and Man City couldn't capitalise on the one-man advantage. Even statistically, you'll see there, Arsenal have more shots on target, better XG, a lot more possession, 60-40. Passes completed, Man City did very well at that, but statistically, overall, Arsenal really did run that final. A little bit disappointing on Man City's behalf on that. In the FA Cup, they have won. They did beat Man United in the final. If we look and see there where Spurs lost to Aston Villa, Man City did beat Oxford. It's not a hard game. Man City then went on to beat Newcastle 2-1 in the quarterfinal, beat Liverpool 2-0 in the semi-final, and they beat Man United 1-0 in the final, with Bernardo Silva scoring just before half-time. Pretty evenly balanced game. Man City had more shots, but Man United had more shots on target. The two of them with a very low XG, less than 1.0. Man City did have more of the possession, 64-36. Probably a fair result there, Man City winning the FA Cup. Oh, that's the wrong button. And if we go to the Champions League, which is the key trophy, really, the key competition for Man City. If we have a quick look at the groups, you see their Spurs did finish second in their group behind Milan. Man City did finish top of their group ahead of Dortmund. But if we look at the stages in the round of 16, Man City have lost 4-2 on aggregate to PSG. It's a little bit disappointing there. They've obviously won 2-1 at home, but they've lost 3-0 in Paris. It's disappointing to see Man City there going out quite so early in the competition. PSG did go on to beat Juventus, and they were eventually knocked out by Liverpool. I feel like if Man City had got to play up to that game and taken PSG's place, they may have beaten Liverpool. I don't know if they would have beaten Real Madrid, but they never made it that far, so it's irrelevant. And looking at the league, as we see here, the Man City have finished second in the league. They finished second in the league on goal difference. They have the same number of points as Liverpool, but they've quite a big goal difference in that they're 17 goals below Liverpool. If we have a look at the past positions, we'll look at it first of all of just Man City. As you'll see there, they haven't been outside the top 3 all season, apart from the very first week, a 2-0 win against Chelsea. Put them in the 5th place. Obviously, all our teams with bigger wins. They haven't been outside, and 18 of the 38 game weeks, Man City have been top of the league. They were top of the league for 4 weeks up until the very end, and on the final day, a 1-1 draw with Leicester essentially cost them the league. So it did. If we compare that with Spurs, as you can see, Man City have been pretty solid throughout the season, whereas Spurs have progressively gotten better. So I think it's fair to say that Kane adjusted the Spurs, maybe that little bit, adjusted to Man City that little bit better than Haaland did with Spurs. But essentially the two of them have done very well for both clubs. So that is it pretty much in review. I think it's fair to say that Haaland's a better player than Kane. Haaland has done better things for Man City than Harry Kane would have done. I think 2 years ago, if Man City had got Kane when he was very heavily rumoured and seemingly wanted to go, I think probably Man City will still have had the same success in real life as what they've had this season. But it's all mid point. They've signed Haaland, Haaland scores goals, and Spurs are sitting in 8th position with Harry Kane scoring 30 goals in a bad season. But that is it for this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. We will be back. There will be a few more experimental videos coming from the channel very soon. We do have our tactics test series ready to drop any day now, and there will be more vlogs coming on our website as well. We will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button below and you will be notified when new videos are available. You can of course like, share and comment as well. In the meantime, you can catch one of these recommended videos appearing on screen, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, thank you and take care.